Hi there, it's Lauren Durr of Lauren Durr Design, and I'm here for Fit It Friday, where I talk about sewing pattern alterations or clothing alterations to fit the body you've got right now. And one of the most frequent alterations that I typically do on sewing patterns is an FBA, or a full bust adjustment. Behind Pattern companies design clothes to fit the largest possible denominator of people. They're not trying to single us out, but what sometimes happens is it feels like we're being singled out if we are larger than the average. So, one of the things that sewing can do is create clothing that fits you really well, looks really good, and makes you feel really good. If you're using a pattern created by some of the independent pattern companies and even by some of the big four that advertise they adjust measurements for cup sizes, then you probably won't have to do an FBA. Some of the signs that you might need an FBA are a shorter hemline in the front because the volume of the chest coming out and over has to be covered by fabric somewhere, and so your hemline will start to rise. So your proportion will be different. I have a few shirts that I have a standard cut out and sewn size, and then I have the same size cut out with an FBA. And the hemline changes, and therefore the proportion and the way it wears changes, and in a positive way. So ideally, when a pattern designer is designing something, they're drawing their idea out on a model, and so they're imagining the hem hitting at a certain point, either at the hip bone or below the hip bone. And if you do not do an FBA and it's needed, your hemline is going to rise above where their design was created. And so you're going to be unhappy because it doesn't look like what you saw in the picture. And so when you do an FBA, you're increasing the length that falls forward from the apex of the breast. You're increasing the amount of volume at the side seams to give some more space at the side volume. And then you're also giving some more space here at the very front. So you create more room for the breast tissue to live in your garment. So on a standard basic sloper or shirt design, you might have something like this. You have your center seam that's usually on the fold of the fabric. You have your apex, neckline, shoulder seam, arm, side, and side seam. Now, when you start to lay out your pattern, you want to first kind of lay the tissue or the paper on your body to make sure the apex is at your apex, meaning this little dot should be where your nipple areola area are. Okay, so whenever we refer to apex, we're referring to nipples. Now, if it's not, go ahead and redraw where it is and make sure you're wearing your traditional undergarments that you always wear so that you're not adjusting this for a special undergarment that maybe you don't wear all the time. Once you have that apex put in, you will then be able to draw a line through the apex in a cross shape to begin to plan out how much to spread your pattern. Now, this is a quick and dirty method of slashing and spreading to do an FBA. I am not really concerned with overall minute details or measurements. I'm just trying to get the pattern to fit nicely. So if you're looking for an exact measurement of how much to spread or how much to do that, it's all going to be individual and based on your own measurements. And it might even be that maybe instead of an FBA, you just cut a larger size in the front than a smaller size in the back. It will really depend on what you're seeing on the individual pattern that you're working with and your body. So once I've cut into my pattern, you might have something that looks like this. And so you can see how I've cut through all the way to the shoulder seam and to the hem, but I haven't opened them up. So the shoulder seam still remains the same length that it was before, and so does the hem. Sometimes, depending on distribution of weight, you might end up wanting to open up this bottom seam a little bit to give you more ease in the belly area. You'll also notice that here in the armpit and side seam area, you might have to do a little bit of truing. In other words, redrawing that line because now this bottom line comes out too far. So you'll want to redraw and kind of recut in here to kind of make that fit back together. Um, and you'll see you might have a little bit of truing here to do as well, because we've spread out from here and we've spread out from here, so now these are no longer straight lines or curved in the same angle. So that is my quick and easy, dirty, not precise method of doing a full bust adjustment that has really saved the shape of some of the patterns that I really wanted to love, but just were not looking right on my body. And the reason is I'm a D cup. Sometimes I'm a double D cup. And they just weren't fitting. There wasn't enough fabric to cover all of that double D-ness. So I hope this has helped you, and I hope this makes some of the sewing patterns you've been having trouble with really sing for the body that you're in. And if you have any questions, feel free to send me a message. Like and subscribe below. I will link any of the resources I have in the comments, and I hope to see you back here again on the next Fit It Friday. Bye-bye.